It's been a busy year in the inland Northwest with news that will have an impact well into the new year.
Over the past year, we have seen a lot. Communities coming together while facing the unimaginable.
I don't know that I have words just to see everything gone.
Families seeking justice after the loss of 4 young lives.
And just how much I wish she was here with us.
And WSU heading into an uncertain future after a shocking conference collapse.
Wazoo will find its way we have for 100 and some years.
But the end of the year does not mean the end of our reporting. There will be more to every one of these stories in the new year. That includes a new mayor, new rules for grizzly bears, and even a new gold rush.
Now we have $3 billion worth of gold 3 miles out of town.
Join us as we count down the 10 biggest stories of 2023 and look ahead to what we can expect in the year ahead. This is the KREM 2 News Year in Review.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for a look back at some of the top stories of the past year. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
And I'm Whitney Ward. Over the next hour, we will bring you stories that connected with people across the inland Northwest.
We built this list based on the stories and videos that you, our viewers, clicked on at KREM.com. So let's get started at number 10. If there was one thing that affected all of us this past year, it was the high gas prices. At one point this summer, Washington State had the highest fuel costs in the entire country, even higher than California and Hawaii. There are many factors that influence gas prices, but Washington likely saw a bigger increase because of the state's Cap and Invest program. I sat down with 3 experts to try to figure out how much that program is costing drivers at the pump. It's been 11 months since the Climate Commitment Act took effect in Washington. The new law aims to do things like reduce greenhouse gas emissions and our dependence on fossil fuels. One of the ways the state is doing that is by making the state's largest pollution emitters buy carbon offset credits at quarterly auctions. The program is quickly generating a lot of revenue.
And we've raised a lot of money. We think so far we've raised about $1.3 billion. So that's a lot of money.
That's Luke Martland with the Department of Ecology and the implementation manager for the Climate Commitment Act. He says the legislature will ultimately decide exactly how that money is spent, but it will be invested in things like clean energy and dealing with the impact of climate change. But the new law has also led to higher prices at the pump. How much higher? Depends on who you ask.
Does ecology know or have a way to track how much it attributes an increase in gas prices to the law specifically?
It's hard to make that connection month by month or week by week, but we have estimated that we think the impact could be around 25 cents a gallon, maybe 27 cents a gallon, and these are only estimates.
25 to 27 cents a gallon more for gas, much different from what the state told us last winter.
I really don't think it's going to be noticeable.
That prediction was at odds with an article published by Todd Myers with the Washington Policy Center. Before the law took effect, he predicted it would drive up prices nearly 50 cents a gallon.
Right. Looking back at that prediction now, how are you feeling about it today?
Well, a year ago, we predicted, and based on the Department of Ecology's own projections, that it would add about 46 cents a gallon. The prices, interestingly, turned out to be just about correct. We're currently about 40 cents a gallon higher than Oregon. At the end of last year, Oregon and Washington had virtually identical prices. We're now about between 35 and 40 cents a gallon higher than they are, so they've turned out to be correct.
Since Myers and Ecology disagree on how much the CCA has driven up prices, we turn to another source for more analysis.
Have you seen a direct correlation between the Cap and Invest program taking effect and an increase in gas prices in Washington?
It looks like there was a direct impact.
Patrick DeHaan is the head of petroleum analysis for GasBuddy, which tracks prices at about 150,000 gas stations in the U.S. and Canada. He says Washington now has the 3rd highest prices in the country, behind only Hawaii and California.
In fact, just in Washington state, did we see an abrupt sudden jolt higher in gasoline prices that's likely attributed to the cap and trade program being implemented. Back prior to the new year, Oregon and Washington prices were virtually neck and neck. Now, Washington prices are about $4.45, whereas Oregon is about $4.15. So certainly a much bigger gap that has been relatively consistent since the start of the year.
While Ecology admits the new law has resulted in higher prices at the pump, they don't believe it's the primary factor at play. They argue things like supply and refinery issues also have an impact.
We do think Cap and Invest has an impact on those prices, but it's just one of the factors that drives those increases. And now, more recently, the price is going down.
While the prices have been dropping as we head into winter, DeHaan says Washington drivers should expect to keep paying among the highest prices in the nation.
Washington will probably be very primed to continue being the third most expensive state in the nation.
The Department of Ecology is working to stabilize prices in the Cap and Invest program. One idea is to link its carbon market with California and Quebec. However, Ecology told me that process could take a couple of years.
We are just getting started with our countdown of the top news stories of this past year. Still ahead, questions about North Idaho College. What is your relationship like now with the trustees? Is it functioning?
Yeah, I think it's improved significantly from, say, November, December.
I sit down with the school's president as NIC fights to keep its accreditation.
Plus, a Washington couple shares their story after a run-in with a grizzly bear.
He was definitely more than a nuisance. He was a threat and a danger.
Welcome back to our KREM 2 News special, where we are counting down the biggest news stories of the past year. We are now at number 9.
And our next story is one we've actually been following now for years, continuing concerns about the North Idaho College Board of Trustees. The college does remain under sanction right now while it tries to avoid losing accreditation. Late this past summer, I had a chance to sit down with NIC President Dr. Nick Swain to find out what that will take. It's been almost 7 weeks since NIC was told it would not lose its accreditation, at least not yet. But it remains under close watch after a series of public squabbles and a show cause sanction by the NWCCU for falling out of compliance with the Commission's standards on governance and institutional integrity.
We're not out of the woods yet.
College President Dr. Nick Swain says it's rare for an institution to be sanctioned for how it's being governed. Usually it's because of financial or educational problems. But he tells me his office and the college's 5 elected trustees now have 1 year to prove they can learn to get along. What is your relationship like now with the trustees? Is it functioning?
Yeah, I think it's improved significantly from, say, November, December when the election happened.
Is it a difference of politics?
I think in North Idaho, politics is really part of everything, but it's not unique to just North Idaho College.
But a lot of people have said that politics has clearly infiltrated decision-making and policy here at NIC. So how do you take politics out of the equation?
I'm not liberal or conservative. I'm just trying to, like, how do we make this the best college possible for our community?
Dr. Swain has only been in the president's office for 2 years. After less than 6 months on the job, though, trustees abruptly placed him on administrative leave. But instead of walking away, Swain fought back in court. And in June of this year, a judge ruled in his favor, telling trustees Swain must be permanently reinstated, which he was less than 3 months ago. Why do you want this job?
Well, I came here to be the president, so it's important to the community, it's important to the state, and so I'm a product of Idaho, and I don't quit just because it gets hard.
How do you continue working with a board that has made it very clear they don't want you here?
It may have been easier if I just walked away for them, but I think we're okay. We'll figure it out.
And they'll have to. The NWCCU has given the college until April of 2025 to get back in good standing and correct 18 key points. Things like continuing training for the president and the trustees, resolving the issues that led to a no confidence vote by faculty and staff, and resolving current litigation. If they fail, NIC could still lose its accreditation.
We have to really focus on really doing the right thing.
In late November, we also heard from the school's accreditor, which said the board has made little to no progress on the recommendations it needs to address in order to avoid losing accreditation. KREM 2 News will keep you updated on the board's progress in the new year.
This has been a long time to get to this place.
Closing down what was once the state's largest homeless camp, we revisit the final hours of Camp Hope when KREM 2's Year in Review returns.
After 18 months, Spokane's largest homeless camp finally closed this past June. At one point, that camp along I-90 grew to more than 600 people.
The homeless camp posed challenges for the city and the state, who struggled to find a solution to get the camp cleared. At number 8, KREM 2's Nathan Hyun takes us back to the day the final person left Camp Hope.
Right about here, I had a pretty big tent. I was fortunate.
Chris Sen was one of the first people to move into the I-90 homeless encampment.
I moved into camp about a month after it opened, and I was here till I moved out of camp back in December.
Now, 18 months later, the camp is cleared.
It's surreal. You know, I didn't think we'd get it closed as quick as we did and get as much help out as we did.
Julie Garcia from Jules Helping Hands says their last camper moved out at 6:30 this morning.
As service providers, we were able to do the work that was necessary, and that's proof is in that pudding of as soon as the lawsuits subsided and the rhetoric subsided, we were able to just put our heads to the ground and house people.
There were once more than 400 people who were badged and living at the camp. Through resources and service providers, many of those people were able to find jobs and housing.
200 plus people from the 467 have received some sort of housing. 150 plus of them have received employment.
But for the others that haven't found housing yet,
and that's where our next journey is to re-engage those folks and provide the same services for them as well.
The journey to clear out the camp hasn't been an easy one. Spokane Mayor Nadine Woodward says they've finally been able to get to this point because of the resources the homeless now have.
We have people that are no longer living in a field because there are better options for them. This has been a long time to get to this place.
As for Chris,
so Jules saved my life.
He's currently living in the Catalyst Project.
All of us came together as a team, and that's what it takes. Just everybody needs to help everybody, and you can make it happen.
And for his next goal,
I'm going to try to start school this fall to become an SUD, and hopefully do more schooling after that and get into social work.
But the closure of Camp Hope was not the end of Spokane's homeless crisis. As we wait to see what the city's new mayor will do about the issue, KREM 2 News went looking for solutions. In a special Boomtown report, Channing Curtis and I traveled to Houston, Texas to see firsthand what they are doing there to address homelessness. We also asked the question, could their model work here in Spokane? To see our full series of reports, just text the word homeless to 509-448-2000. We'll send those links back to you.
At number 7, a story that we will be following into the new year. 2 women were killed, 3 other people hurt in a shooting near the Gorge Amphitheater. The shooter opened fire inside a campground on the night of June 17th. Jocelyn Ruiz and her fiance, Brandy Escamilla, both of Seattle, were killed. The suspect, who was a soldier stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord, has been charged with murder. He told deputies he was under the influence of mushrooms and hallucinating when he started shooting. He has pleaded not guilty. His trial has not yet started. Just days after the shooting, KREM 2 News talked with one of the shooting victims from his hospital bed.
August Morningstar was shot in the shoulder and suffered a shattered rotator cuff. At the time, he told KREM 2's Janelle Finch all he wanted was to get better so he could hold his daughters again.
I'm not going to let one bad experience ruin the rest of my days.
That one bad experience was a near-death run-in with an active shooter at one of the Gorge's campgrounds.
And I heard a girl says, we gotta call the cops. We gotta call the effing cops.
Morningstar was shot in the shoulder and ran for his life.
I gotta survive so I can see my daughters, and my daughters can have a dad. I didn't want them not having a father.
Despite the pain he's still enduring,
hold on.
He says surviving the shooting has made him even more confident in living his life the way he always has.
Just trying to be a positive example for people who go through bad experiences like this, and go to show that you can be positive no matter what happens to you.
Other shooting victims include the former girlfriend of the accused shooter who attended the concert with him, as well as a security guard who had a bullet deflect off of her glasses but was not seriously hurt.
Still ahead in our look back at this year's top stories, a Stevens County couple speaks out after a grizzly bear comes just feet from their kid's bedroom.
That's when the mama bear in me comes out and I'm like, hey, this bear needs to be dealt with.
Hear why they say grizzly encounters are increasing and why some may not even be counted.
Plus, from 12 to 2, Wazoo faces an uncertain future now after the shocking collapse of the Pac-12. Welcome back to our KREM 2 News special, looking back at some of the top stories of the past year. I'm Whitney Ward.
I'm Mark Hanrahan. We are nearly halfway through, and our next story was a KREM 2 News exclusive.
For the first time on TV, a couple from Stevens County opened up about a grizzly bear that came onto their property and killed their chickens.
At number 6, Jeremy Legou and our Environment Northwest team shares their story.
In the mountains of North Stevens County, it's quiet. Except for the occasional, but it's here, by the chicken coop, where that quiet was literally ripped apart.
The bear, when it came in and tore through here, it just tin canned the feed barrel and rolled it over actually about 10 feet from the house.
Alexandra and Luke Davis are used to wildlife in these parts.
We're used to the black bears coming in.
But this disruption was something different.
And this side of the coop was ripped off. He ripped that open and was getting chickens out of there.
This was a grizzly bear.
Grizzly bears, they just don't stop. Once they find something that they want, you don't just chase them off.
The signs were all there. The coop and fence ripped apart, tracks around their property.
When we started seeing tracks like that, that's when we really started locking down.
But they still hadn't actually seen the grizzly.
You didn't know where he was.
The couple reached out to wildlife officials who set up cameras.
And you can see right there the fence and the hog panel, the grizzly just pushing it down. He has chicken in his mouth.
That's when it, like the mama bear in me comes out and I'm like, hey, this bear needs to be dealt with because that's too close.
Wildlife officials set a trap, and later that night,
I heard the door slam shut and he started rocking and roaring and really raising a ruckus when he got in there.
Do you think the grizzly had any fear whatsoever?
None. He was totally comfortable and just did what he wanted every time. He was definitely more than a nuisance. He was a threat and a danger, and it couldn't have that. I mean,
the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife says they occasionally document grizzlies in Northeast Washington.
They're definitely here.
But the people who live here say the signs are more than occasional.
We know how many are out here. We have to deal with them.
Grizzly bears used to live in most of Washington, but now they're endangered and only supposed to live in the Selkirk Mountains. So when they show up in yards like this,
a lot of the people are afraid to speak out about any of it because they don't want to get in trouble because they're protected.
The bear's protected, but the residents left exposed.
You can only do so much against an animal that huge and that fierce, and you definitely don't put yourself between them and what they're going after.
As the Davises settle into quiet winter,
spring's right around the corner.
The threat of wildlife never goes away.
Yeah, bracing ourselves for spring when they wake up and they know where it's at.
As we mentioned, right now, grizzlies in Washington state are restricted to the Selkirk Mountains, but there is a plan to reintroduce them to the North Cascades. To learn more about that proposal, just text us the word bear to 509-448-2000, and we'll send you all those details.
Our number 5 story is one that we will likely be following for years. After more than a century, the Pac-12 collapsed this past year as all but 2 teams announced plans to leave the conference. For Washington State University and Oregon State University, there are a lot of questions as they are trying to find a path forward. There's a lot at stake for WSU as it faces uncertainty about scheduling for its sports teams and a potential big loss in revenue. As news of the conference collapse was breaking, WSU head football coach Jake Dickert put into words what many Cougs were feeling.
You know, the old question, how long would it take TV money to destroy college football? Maybe we're here. Maybe we're here. And to think that local rivalries are at risk and fans driving 4 hours to watch their team play in a road game and rivalries is at risk, to me is unbelievable. We'll look back in college football in 20 years and be like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But at the end of the day, what's it worth? I understand business. I understand change. Everyone's got to change, and we got to adapt. And Wazoo will find its way. We have for 100 and some years.
And while there is a lot to figure out, WSU and UW did agree to continue the Apple Cup, at least for the next 5 years.
We're at nearly a crisis level in terms of our unhoused population.
Still ahead, Spokane elects a new mayor. Hear what Lisa Brown says will be her top priorities in the new year.
Plus, a gold rush here in Washington, the discovery that is putting a small town back on the map.
We are counting down the top stories of the year on KREM 2 News, and our number 4 story takes us to the town of Republic.
More than $3 billion in gold deposits were discovered in the area, and as Nicole Hernandez shows us, this newfound gold is already having an impact.
We're just going to cruise up through town.
In a place where the amount of wildlife
We have a deer population in town.
seems to match the human population,
Between 800 and 1,000 people at all times.
Mayor Albert Kuntz says there's one thing the city of Republic, Washington has even more of. Block after block, you can see the history of gold mining has a hold on the city.
When I first came in '88, we had Hecla Mine, and it was producing, the people were making good money.
Over the years, the cost of mining and scarcity of gold forced Hecla and other mines to close, leaving Republic's literal rich history underground.
We have been rated the coldest county in the state of Washington. We have been rated the poorest.
But now there's a chance history repeats itself.
And now we have $3 billion worth of gold 3 miles out of town.
Caliber Mine released findings of exploratory drilling in the foothills of Republic, saying 2 million ounces of gold is sitting in the Golden Eagle mine.
For us, it would be a boon. I mean, the town would grow and prosper, and you would have some really good paying jobs.
A glimpse of the town's golden years now on the horizon once again. But some in town aren't sure about the prospect.
I'm a bit of a pessimist at heart.
Sean French has lived in Republic almost his whole life.
We're a nice little small community, and it comes with it the worry that a lot of people might try to move up here just to try and get some gold.
Caliber Mine says 4 million ounces of gold has come out of this mining region over the past 130 years. The last operating mine in the area closed in 2017, but rekindling that history of mining won't be easy.
Knowing the process that they're going to have to go through, you know, it's going to be a few years before this happens. It's not going to be like next week they're going to start.
The company will need to secure permits. Plus, Mayor Albert says the existing mine itself would need a lot of work to get up and running again. But no matter what the future holds, the news of gold is taking hold in the town once again. In Republic, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
We are now up to our 3rd biggest story of the year, and the new year brings a new mayor for the city of Spokane. In November, voters elected Lisa Brown to replace incumbent Nadine Woodward. I had a chance to talk with the incoming mayor about her plans for the city. When did you decide that you wanted to run for mayor, and why this job?
It was about a year ago. It was actually, the decision was made really during the holiday season. And I just love the city, and I saw things that I thought could be better. We're at nearly a crisis level in terms of our unhoused population, and I think we've heard from people about not having a plan to really bring them inside, so that will be a #1 priority.
What about the track center right now? Millions of dollars obviously allocated to just keeping that running. So what do you see as the future for funding that?
As I stated during the campaign, I don't think that the track shelter is a best practice. And as a facility, it is also not very adequate for really meeting the needs of the unhoused population.
No matter which part of the city they live in, property crime has affected just about everyone. The current chief has said that we just need more officers on the streets. Do you think that that's something the city will be able to do financially moving forward?
I think we do need to do that, and we probably need to look at current administrative functions within the department, see if there are ways to maybe create some efficiencies.
What do you say to people who are afraid of your liberal agenda and deathly afraid of not becoming the next Seattle or Portland?
Well, interestingly, I am looking at other cities. I'm looking at Eugene, where they have a homeless street outreach, street medicine team approach. I'm looking at Boise, where they've been more successful in building housing. But then it's ultimately going to be up to Spokane, and I believe we can do that.
Still ahead, hundreds of homes are lost as devastating wildfires burn throughout Spokane County.
Go, 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 go!
We are taking a look back at the start of the Oregon Road and Gray fires. Welcome back to our KREM 2 News special as we take a look back at some of the biggest news stories of the past year. This list is based on the stories and videos that people interacted with on KREM.com.
Our #2 story had impacts all across Spokane County. On the afternoon of August 18th, 2 devastating wildfires started within hours of each other. 2 people died in those fires and hundreds of families lost their homes.
The Gray Fire sparked first just after noon near Medical Lake. It burned more than 250 buildings and forced the closure of I-90 for several days.
Just a few hours later, the Oregon Road Fire started near Elk. More than 380 buildings burned, including 126 primary homes.
Here is a look back at some of our coverage of the Oregon Road Fire.
In this uncut video of the drive, you can see the walls of flame on both sides. Calls on Morgan's radio alert the fire has jumped the road in some spots.
You're not getting me today.
As Deputy Morgan navigates through the heat and smoke, guided by his partner's lights ahead.
Hurry the Dave! I don't want to die in this.
With debris hitting his patrol car, sparks flying through the air with the roadway, a tunnel of forest turned inferno.
Hurry up, Dave!
Firefighters say this fire was driven on by 45-mile-per-hour winds, flames reaching more than 100 feet in the air. Deputy Morgan's body cam unknowingly capturing it all, until they emerge on the other side.
Holy, that was hairy.
It's still unbelievable for Christopher Hunt to come back to the home he shared with his grandfather for decades.
And then the flames come down the field here and surrounded the place and kind of just took over.
Christopher was able to save his grandpa, pulling him from the home as flames closed in. Leanna Hunt and her husband are sorting through what's left, though there isn't much.
We had 2 sons that had muscular dystrophy, and they both passed away. And everything they ever made or ever got me for Mother's Day, Father's Day, it's all gone. And you just can't replace that kind of stuff.
And it's just devastating. I'm still kind of in shock about it.
This is what Justin Knutson looked like in a Seattle hospital days after saving his neighbors during the Oregon Road Fire.
It's been definitely one of the most wildest experiences of my life.
As flames devoured his home, Justin ran to his neighbors telling them to evacuate. But on his way out, Justin suffered the worst of it. Second-degree burns on 30% of his body.
Now it's just about trying to stretch and keep mobility with both arms.
It's only been a month and a half since that fateful day, but he's persevered.
We're not materialistic people. So, you know, we didn't lose anybody that day, so everything's good. Here, I'll help.
Justin and his family are now picking up the pieces.
Come on, we'll go put them on the deck. Come on.
For the first time since the devastating fire,
come here.
His family is moving into a temporary space.
It'll be a long process, but it's nice to be able to have our own place again.
Still ahead, a look back at the Gray Fire, including a daring escape on the water.
Sadly, this is our house as there's fire in the front yards.
As I looked straight across and saw the flames, it dawned on me that in an instant, our strip of 5, 6 houses that we have down on the water were just up like that.
Welcome back as we are taking a look back at some of the biggest news stories of the year in the Inland Northwest. We continue now with more on our number 2 story, the wildfires that burned through Spokane County this past summer.
We now want to focus on the Gray Fire, which burned throughout the Medical Lake area. Here is a look at some of the stories from people who were affected by the fire.
The fire started early yesterday afternoon and extreme weather conditions drove the flames towards Medical Lake, prompting level 3 evacuations.
Firefighters will continue to work hard.
District 3 Fire Chief Cody Rohrbach says the fire has burned 185 structures. It's not clear yet on how many of those structures are homes. Officials say that hundreds of homes are still threatened.
We certainly want to get folks back into their houses as soon as possible, and we want to also provide them with the best possible outcome.
In the shadow of the widespread smoke coming from Medical Lake, wildfire evacuees made their way to safety here at Cheney High School. A young man evacuated his grandmother from Medical Lake. They only had time to grab her medication, cat, and the clothes on her back. This Medical Lake family is taking their first deep breath here after narrowly escaping the wildfire that raced toward their home.
And you could hear things behind us just blowing up.
Sandy Hastings is also counting her blessings. She and her husband evacuated from their home, hoping they'd return to it soon. But when they arrived at Cheney High School, they got an alert from their security camera. The camera is mounted on the home of Sandy's father. That's their RV parked next door. Her heart sunk when she saw the flames inch closer and closer to her home.
I don't know where we are. You know, if it's burned down, if our RV is gone because of all the notices saying that everything's not working.
When the authorities call level 3 and say it's time to go, it's time to go.
Pat Carpenter was running out of time and options last Friday. He was 10 minutes behind his wife. She left their Silver Lake home in one of their cars right before the gray fire blocked roads, trapping him and several other neighbors.
Donna was coming out in her bathrobe and her slippers because the police had knocked on her door.
The fire was coming right for them.
When we knew our houses were going quickly.
Carpenter loaded up 3 neighbors and a dog into his pontoon boat, which he bought just a few weeks ago.
I had to remember where to turn the battery on.
Sadly, this is our houses. There's fire in the front yards.
Last video, fires in Vasili's backyard. As I looked straight across and saw the flames, it dawned on me that in an instant, our strip of 5-6 houses that we have down on the water were just up like that.
There is still a long road ahead for people affected by the Gray and Oregon road fires, and we want you to know that KREM 2 News is committed to telling their stories and keeping our viewers updated on the recovery efforts in the next year.
We now have just one story left in our countdown, and it is one that generated a lot of interest, not just here locally, but all around the world.
Before we get to our #1 story, let's take a look back at the rest of the list. At number 10, we take a look at the impact of Washington's Cap and Invest program on gas prices.
At number 9, North Idaho College fights to keep its accreditation.
Number 8, what was once the largest homeless camp in Washington closes for good.
Number 7, a deadly shooting at a campground near the Gorge Amphitheater.
At number 6, a Stevens County couple shares their encounter with a grizzly bear.
Number 5, an uncertain future for Washington State University after the Pac-12 collapses.
Number 4, a gold rush brings renewed attention to the town of Republic.
At number 3, Spokane elects a new mayor as Lisa Brown beats Nadine Woodward in the November election.
And at number 2, 2 devastating wildfires in Spokane County destroyed hundreds of homes.
And our countdown of the biggest news stories in the Inland Northwest wraps up with our top story right after this break. Welcome back to our KREM 2 News special as we take a look back at some of the biggest news stories of this past year. And we have now made it to that top spot.
And the story that had the most interaction on KREM.com is the case against Brian Koberger, the suspect in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Janelle Finch gives us a quick look back at some of the major updates from the past year.
47 days after the students' bodies were discovered, an arrest is made. December 30th, Pennsylvania State Police take Koberger into custody. He's then extradited to Idaho, where he would wait for his first Latah County Court appearance on January 5th. On this day, major details in the investigation were released in the Affidavit of Facts. Over the first quarter of the year, search warrants would show what investigators took from Koberger's Pullman apartment and university office. Koberger made several court appearances leading up to a grand jury indictment May 17th. Less than a week later at the suspect's arraignment, a trial date was set for October 2nd. This date would eventually be thrown out, with both the state and defense advocating for more time to prepare for the trial. That brings us to today, 1 year later, where we're all in waiting. Between a suspect waiting to know his fate while in Latah County custody, and the world waiting to see who was responsible for the deaths of 4 young people, and will they be brought to justice.
As we cover the court hearings in the new year, KREM 2 News wants to make sure that we focus on the 4 students who lost their lives. They are Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin.
1 year after their deaths, the families tell us they still feel unimaginable grief. In his first interview since his daughter's memorial, Ben Mogan told KREM 2 News' Tim Pham how he finds ways to still remember his little angel.
This is the tattoo that I got to remember Maddie.
Maddie Mogan.
She is my little angel.
Has always been her dad's angel.
Having her in my life got me through a lot of dark moments.
Maddie is Ben's light, his reason to live.
Well, I wouldn't be here without her.
Here, living his life, but also here.
And hot, not iced, please.
At this Coeur d'Alene Starbucks.
The last time that we ever went somewhere together, it was here. There used to be a table right over here, and that's the one that we sat at. Yeah, every time I even drive by here, I think about just how much I wish she was here with us.
Now Maddie's presence is what keeps Ben going.
She was the best child I could have asked for, and yeah, we miss her so much.
How are you doing 1 year after?
Yeah, we're hanging in there. We've spent a lot of time, you know, together and thinking about Maddie and just trying to live our best lives that she would want us to live, you know.
A life honoring the light Maddie started shining since the day she was born.
Bright and funny and just fun. She was a fun person to be around. She always had lots of friends, and yeah, she loved music. That she probably got that from me.
Do you remember what it was like hearing that your daughter was going to be a vandal?
Yeah, I was excited. It was going to be close enough that we'd be able to see her. You know, she could come home on weekends, and yeah, but still, it was going to be far enough away that she could feel like she was living her own life and being independent.
Last spring, Maddie earned her posthumous degree in marketing.
I hereby confer upon Madison May Mogan the posthumous degree earned.
They didn't just give it to her because they were trying to be nice. She earned all those credits, and she got that degree, and yeah, we're so proud of her still. She had such a bright future ahead of her, and yeah, we just miss her every day.
Every day since he first got the call 1 year ago.
I got a couple calls, one from my mom and then one from Karen, and they were right back to back. I mean, the worst things came to my head, but it still wasn't as bad as what it ended up being.
That day we remember, November 13th, cold and dark, both literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, it's just horrific. I hope no one ever has to go through something like that.
But now even Maddie's name, Maddie May, a symbol of light and kindness.
Maddie May Day is something that my sisters came up with. We just wanted to have her birthday, May 25th, be a day that we celebrate and that makes people's lives better in the name of Maddie May.
A bright spring day that Maddie's legacy makes even brighter.
And so every year on that day, we're going to just do a random act of kindness.
Spreading the light Maddie touched so many with.
I'll have people come up to me even now, a year later, and say, hey, I just wanted to tell you how much Maddie meant to me. I didn't realize how many lives that she was able to touch in her short life.
Where are you in the stages of grief right now?
I've been able to keep my head up. It's really easy to spiral down after something like this.
365 days missing milestones with his Maddie May. It's why he holds things like this close to his heart.
She wrote, Happy Father's Day. I hope you have the best day. I can't wait till we can hang out again soon.
This was the last Father's Day card Maddie gave her dad.
I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you for always encouraging me to do my best. Love you lots and lots, Maddie May. My mom got me a little silver angel wing to remind me that Maddie's always with me. When I feel that she's looking down on me or that she's there with me, I say it out loud. I say, I love you, Maddie, or I say, hi, Maddie, or something like that, so that maybe she can know that I'm thinking about her and how often I think about her. Because there's not a, she's always on my heart.
Her presence lighting Ben's path, even 1 year later.
Yeah, so I tell her hi multiple times a day, and maybe she knows.
And KREM 2 News will be tracking updates in this case in the next year. As of mid-December, the judge had not yet set a trial date.
Thank you for joining KREM 2 News as we took a look back at some of the top news stories in the Inland Northwest from the past year.
If you missed any part of our countdown, you can watch anytime on demand on KREM 2 Plus. It is free to download right now on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. I'm Whitney Ward.
And I'm Mark Hanrahan. Be sure to keep it right here on KREM 2 News throughout the new year as we bring you more to every story. And thank you for watching.